people of the internet, my name is Gabby and today I'm going to be bringing you my January wrap-up. I read 9 books in January and it was an absolutely fantastic way to kick off the year, and I'm really excited to discuss all these books with you guys. But before I can do that, just a quick FYI that I uploaded my January book haul a few weeks back, and in that video I discussed a lot of these same books that I'm going to be bringing up in my wrap-up, and so I discussed more plot and synopsis based information in that video, and then in this video I'm going to be discussing more of my thoughts and my opinions. So depending on what you're looking for, I would go to that specific video. So if you want to see more plot-based information, I will leave my January book haul link down below and you can watch that, and then maybe you can come back here and hear more of my thoughts and my opinions. That being said, and just kind of clarifying that, I'm going to get right into my January wrap-up for 2017. So my first read of the year was Kindred Spirits by Rainbow Rowell. I rated this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. The one problem that I had with it is that I feel like it was more suited for a full-length novel, as a lot of the background information that we get on the characters and their relationship is just things that I would have liked to have seen explored more fully, but we did not get that opportunity. But there were so many other things that I really loved about this book, specifically the nerd culture and how when you really love something, you'll go to the fullest lengths for it, getting to connect with other people who have those similar interests, just so many wonderful things about the nerd culture, and it just made me really excited to pick up more Rainbow Rowell in the future this year, and just so many wonderful things. Like I said, I would have loved to have seen this as a full-length novel, and I think that that's just one of the reasons maybe why I knocked it down, is because I feel like the plot wasn't fully explored. Like, I just wanted more, and I guess I'm going to have to read more Rainbow Rowell in order to get to the satisfaction that I was craving when reading the story. But I really loved it, and it was a great way to kick off my year of reading for 2017. So my second read of the year was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, and this is the illustrated edition with illustrations done by Jim Kay and inspired by Sahobi and Dowd. This book is so beautiful and so emotional and heartwarming and just fantastic, and I love the message that it preaches, this whole idea of being a kid and having all these feelings and having nobody to go to, and then having the monster that comes and tells him all these stories that are very philosophical and things that you could spend hours poring over. And the story itself is just so beautiful. A 5 out of 5 star read. I had such a fantastic time picking this book up, and I picked it up in anticipation of seeing the movie hopefully a few weeks later. That opportunity did not come, so I'm gonna have to wait until the movie comes out on DVD, and I'll be very excited once I finally get the chance to see it, because I've heard nothing but good things from all of you guys. But I love this book so much, and I'm really excited to get to see it adapted. It was just so beautiful, and I'd never read anything from Patrick Ness before, and his writing absolutely blew me away, and I really hope that I can pick up more from him in the future, because this book was just so fantastic, and the illustrations added so much to the story. They're just so gorgeous, and this is a book that you can page through in one sitting, but you could sit through for hours and just really ponder all of the meanings and the stories and the morals written within it, and I thought that was something that was just really unique, and I would love to get to page through this again and just really think more on it, because it was just so beautiful, and I love the way that it dealt with the concepts within the book. It's just so many great things that I really loved about this, and I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to pick it up. So my third read of the year was This Song Will Save Your Life by Leela Sales. I connected to this book in so many ways. Our main character is a sophomore in high school, and she's my age, and I had never read a book where at the time I was reading it, the character was the same age as I was and going through similar issues as I was. Our main character, Elise, feels depressed. She really doesn't have a lot of friends in school who have similar interests as her. She doesn't really feel like she fits, and I just connected to her in that way that I never felt like I connected to a contemporary character before. She was just alone and isolated, and she personally had it a lot worse than I did, or do. With feeling so depressed and feeling like she doesn't belong in school, Elise finds this community at this nightclub and starts to find a passion for DJing, and that's what the book community is for me, a place where I can come and discuss reading and have a community of people who understand that, and it was so wonderful to get that in a novel, and for it to also deal with mental illness and mental health in that way, because most stories that deal with depression focus on here's what depression is and all the background and the statistics behind it, and by the time you get to the novel, you're just kind of given the impression that the character is on a recovery process and that it's happily ever after, and that's not always the case. There's steps and journeys that needs to be taken with recovery, and it's not always that easy, and it's nice to see a book that focuses on that and using it in a way to explore the idea of finding a passion and using that to cure your depression, and saying that there's people out there who have similar interests as you, go and find them and find a community in that. And I think that's something that's really helpful. And I love seeing that explored in this book. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars because I love the book overall and the message that it teaches as a whole and the concepts and themes that you can get from it. But I feel like some of my problems with it that sort of like drew me back a little bit were with just in the plot itself and things that are more spoilery that I can't really discuss. But I did enjoy this book, and I'm really glad that I picked it up and that I was able to connect with the character and the story in a way that I never had before with a previous contemporary novel. Next read of 2017 was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This is a book that I really can't discuss that much because you have to go into it and just kind of figure it out on your own. And one of the things that I sometimes worry about when people say that is that it's going to be one of those books that's really philosophical and you're going to have to put 2 and 2 together, but you figure out everything by the end. But it's one of those stories that just has such a very unique and very standout writing style, but it's very beautiful. There's a lot of metaphors and idioms and things where you're never really sure what's going on until you get to the very end, and when you piece it all together, you can look back and see how you were sort of foreshadowing at those aspects. The writing style is very unique, and you can tell it was something that seems like it was fully planned out before the writing went into the story, you know, before she actually sat down and penned the story. She probably had an idea of where the story was going to go full circle, and I just think that was really interesting. And this is a perfect conversation starter. I feel like it's a great book to discuss with friends or with a class. My friends actually read this for their summer reading book, and this is a book I've wanted to read forever. And when my friends are reading a young adult novel before me, that's when you know you have a problem. So I had to pick this one up. I'm very glad that I did. I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really, my only problem with it is that I feel like with the writing style being really beautiful and being such a big draw was that I could not connect to the characters. I feel like there was just a separation between them and the plot, and I think that just was coming from the fact that the writing style was so exemplary and so different that that was the main draw rather than the characters. I enjoyed the story in itself, and I thought it was just a really fun and really unique and different read than what I've previously read from contemporaries. So the next 2 books I have here are the first 2 books in a trilogy, and that is Red Rising and Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. So, holy crap. This is a series that I absolutely have no words for. I went into it just like excited and saying that, you know, I wanted to pick up this series and I wanted to see how I'd like it, really going in knowing absolutely nothing. And I read it and I loved it. Both of these were 5 out of 5 star reads. The writing style was just something that I didn't expect, and the characters and the way that they're written. This book just took me completely and entirely off guard. And the way that Golden Sun ends just immediately makes me want to pick up Morningstar and see how this series wraps up. And I feel like I really can't form complete thoughts until I finish the series entirely, but I'm loving where we're going so far. I love all of the characters. Everything is so high stakes and so intense, and Pierce Brown is just absolutely amazing author. I had no expectations going in to this series, but I've been absolutely blown away. Just so fantastic, so much fun to read. And I feel like this series, you know, as much as Natasha talks a lot about it on her channel, I feel like it's not as hyped as it should be. I want everyone to read this series. It's just so phenomenal and so fun and so fast-paced, and once you get into it, you just can't stop reading. Both of these books I finished on winter break at around 1, 2 in the morning because once I picked them up, I could not stop. That I stayed up the entire night reading them, and that's the best feeling when reading a series like this that's so action-packed and you finish it at 2 in the morning and you're like, holy shit, what just happened, and you can't sleep and you can't go to bed and you need to pick up the next book. That's just the best feeling in the world, and I loved getting that from this series, and it just made it a perfect fun read over the break, and I'm really excited to pick up Morningstar and finish off this series and hopefully see where my thoughts go or if they change at all, because I'm loving this series so far and the first 2 books are absolutely fantastic. So my next read is The Star Touch Queen by Roshni Chachki. This is the only book that was not featured in my January book haul, and I got this book back at the end of May, and it was actually in my BookCon haul because I went to Roshni's signing at Anderson's and I picked up this book there, obviously for the signing, and I haven't read it until now. So let's get into a brief synopsis for this book. We have our main character Maya, and she has a horoscope that promises a marriage of death and destruction. And so her father, the Raja, the king of this kingdom, decides to set up an arranged marriage and set Maya up with a whole bunch of different men from these neighboring kingdoms to create an alliance because all these different kingdoms are at war. And Maya ends up with Amar, who is the king of Acheron, and now she's the queen of this new kingdom, and she has to figure everything out within this world that's very whimsical and very magical and very beautiful and very just alluring and very different than the kingdom that she herself grew up in. And she just has to learn how to navigate this new world, as well as sort of figuring out Amar and trusting this man who's now supposed to be her husband, and finding out that there's more that he's not telling her, and just all of this deception in this very magical and beautiful world. So this story, I was super intimidated to pick it up, which is the reason that I did not read it until now. But once I picked it up, I just absolutely loved it. This was 5 out of 5 stars simply for the writing style alone. It's so beautiful and so alluring because you're dealing with this fantasy-esque world that has a lot of mythology and Indian folklore within it, but it's just so drawing, and that even the plot itself, if you may not be interested in it, the writing style is such a prominent feature that makes it a 5 out of 5 star read, especially coming from a debut author. There's just so many beautiful things about the writing style that you just read it and you're just so impressed and drawn in by it that it made this book so fantastic. And I've never been a big fan of mythology. I've always been a little bit intimidated and put back by it. I've never really been able to read mythology and feel captivated, but I read this and the writing style in itself drew me in, and I really want to read more from Roshni as an author, get to see more of her capabilities and what she does, because this book was fantastic, and I'm really glad that I finally picked it up, that I was encouraged by a friend to do that, because I had a fantastic time reading it. The world was so alluring and it made it so much fun to read and get into, and I'm glad I finally picked this book up. The next read I have here is another book that I'm really excited to discuss, and that is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This was one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I finally read it and it was fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book so much. It's just such a fantastic representation on so many levels when you're dealing with sexuality, race, and mental health. It like represents something for everybody, which is great. We have characters of different ethnicities, of different sexualities, and we have mental health representation. We have our main character Griffin, who has OCD, and the way that's represented in this book is so fantastic because it's something that's constantly plaguing Griffin to the point where he cannot function if somebody is not sitting on his proper side or if things aren't in a certain number pattern that he needs. And it's just so great to see how that's represented, and I think that it comes from Adam himself because he says that he has a lot of these compulsions, and so when you have an author that experiences it firsthand, you know that it's going to be great representation, but he does a fantastic job at that, and just telling the characters themselves and their journey. And the writing style in this book is majorly stepped up from More Happy Than Not, because you're writing a more complex plot where you're dealing with past and present and having to wove both of those together to make a cohesive plot and make sure that it works and that it's all consistent together, and that's something that takes a lot more effort. And this book is just so fantastic on so many layers, and I really hope that I get a chance to discuss this book more with you guys because I had such a fantastic time reading it, and I have so many countless amounts of thoughts that I can't get into, obviously because of spoilers, but I love this book so much and all the characters. It just was a major improvement in Adam's writing, and I really hope that we get to see him improve as an author, and I'm really excited to pick up They Both Die at the End, which is Adam's next book that's coming out in September. The plot of that sounds really interesting and really unique, and I just am so excited to be getting 2 Adam Silvera books in one year. I loved History Is All You Left Me. There's so many wonderful things about it, and I really hope I feel the same about They Both Die at the End, but I probably will because 2 out of 2 Adam Silvera books that are both 5 out of 5 star reads definitely sets a high bar, but I'm really excited to read more from him. He's a fantastic author. I got to meet Adam at his tour stop in LaGrange when he came here on his tour for History Is All You Left Me, so I'll definitely be discussing more about that and maybe doing a non-spoiler review of this book. I really want to get back into doing more book reviews, but I've always been really busy with school and other things like that, so hopefully I get a chance to discuss this book more, but just know that I really, really loved it, and it was a fantastic read, so emotional and so beautiful, and dealt with so many interesting topics, dealing with grief and also dealing with, mental illness, learning to deal with those things, not letting those things take over your life, also learning how to deal with coping and grief. It just so many wonderful topics and things that were just so beautiful and such wonderful discussion points, and I'm just really glad that I got the opportunity to pick this book up, and everybody on BookTube has been raving about it. If you haven't picked it up yet, what are you doing? Go and pick this book up. It's so fantastic. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to read this and to meet Adam again. He's just such a precious, wonderful human being, and if you haven't picked this book up yet, like I said, go and do it. My final read of January was Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. This is the second and final book in the Passengers duology. I'm very happy to say that I enjoyed this book a lot more than I enjoyed Passenger. I think I rated Passenger like 3 or 3.5 stars just because I feel like there was a major disconnect to me for the world. I feel like there was lots of world building where I couldn't connect to the characters and the plot and all the things that were going on because it all had to be established and there was just a lot going on that I couldn't grasp. But with this second book, I feel like one of the things that's really great is now that we've established the entire world, you can just dive right in and it's not as much world building. But the problem with that, which is why I rated this book 4.5 out of 5 stars, is the fact that I feel like it wraps up so quickly and that there's so much more that could be explored here that it would be better fit for a series. But I really loved the second book. I feel like there was lots of improvements for it and that it overall created a better outlook for me for this duology, and I do want to read more. I would love to see a novella or something where we explore more of the world because there's lots of new aspects that we open with this second and final book coming out, that with all the new plots and things that we introduce, it feels like there's more to explore there, and I really hope that we get that opportunity just because I feel like this world isn't finished. But I really enjoyed reading it. I loved getting to see all the different eras and places that characters time travel to, and you can tell that Alex really researches that and makes it very accurate and has a major concern for history and how it plays into the story, obviously as it's a major part. But I really love this book nonetheless. I'm glad that I had a better outlook on the duology than I did when I first started it, and I'm glad that this wrapped up my reading for January, and I'm really excited to hopefully pick up The Darkest Minds very soon. Personally, I think I may enjoy that more than I enjoyed the Passengers duology, but I'm not going to know until I pick it up, and hopefully I'll do that very soon because I overall enjoyed this duology and it makes me want to pick up more from Alexandra Bracken in the future. So that's pretty much it for my January wrap-up. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to comment down below what your favorite read of January is, I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye!